Hey, Rodney here. Should we make a game? Today we've got something a bit different, a bit strange. So on more sort of recent streams, I've been sort of down focused, and I think I know why that is. I was hoping to be a lot further along by now than I actually am, and given how late it is, I know that anything I'm doing on the game right now is sort of pointless. I mean, we're roughly 4 hours off being done, and it's so far away from being, 4 hours away from having no more time, but so far away from actually having a finished game that anything I would be doing right now isn't actually contributing meaningfully. And that kind of does weigh on you a bit. So on a more positive note, let's talk about what's going to happen after this. So enough of this game is kind of written under time constraints that the code isn't really directly usable in other projects. There's a lot of cases where there's either obvious functionality missing or there's things that were designed incorrectly, but I kind of didn't really have time to go back and design correctly, because I had to spend time building the game, not the engine. Well, it's kind of a shaky step. I feel like it is a step towards an actual useful, good engine. So there's a lot of things I'd like to do in kind of like a standalone version of the engine. Sort of like basically taking it completely to pieces, looking at every piece in isolation, cleaning up any rough edges on it, figuring out where it goes right and where it goes wrong, and putting it back together into a full engine. But there's some other stuff I'd really like to improve at the same time. First one is documentation. There is actually quite a lot of documentation in here. Describing things like exactly how to install the dependencies, exactly how to build it, things like that. But there's not really anything in here saying this is the engine, this is how it works. You're supposed to put these things together like this to achieve these results. This is here because of this. This is here because this isn't here because of that. And also there's things like importers, which have pretty strict limitations on what they can and can't import. Particularly the mod tracker music importer is very, very limited, and I haven't written up anywhere exactly where those limitations are. So the next thing is kind of tooling. So I've gone out of my way to make the engine use open source formats wherever possible. Things like OBJ, mod tracker, stuff that is widely implemented, widely documented, so that it'll be possible to use those assets later on, even if everything here ends up not being used. But in the case of Blender in particular, it has an OBJ import export, but it doesn't quite match up with what the engine is doing. So it imports materials with texture filtering, which isn't a very good match. And by default, it swaps Y and Z, which means everything's upside down. Something like a custom Blender import export plugin could fix all that, and it could also add features like, say, checking that your navigation meshes are correct. And something I wanted to put in the engine actually was vertex color, but OBJ doesn't support it. Well, I found out that ZBrush actually adds an extension where after the X, Y, and Z coordinates of a vertex, you can actually specify color. And I'm like, I could do that. That'd be very handy. There's also design changes. So an element of this which isn't really documented, I don't think it's documented at the moment, yeah, it's not, is the kind of API between, because it's kind of structured as, you usually see it if I get the directory structure open. There's a game, which is like a WebAssembly module, and then there's runtimes, which basically take that WebAssembly module and run it, and feed input into it, take output out of it. For a start off, there's no documentation of the API between the two, and there really should be. The second thing is the API is a bit cluttered and messy, because I kind of added things as I found I needed them. So if I go through to, say, the game, get source, I kept everything in the API folder from the exports. You got like audio buffers, which are like, and there's lots of functions that just return a pointer. You got the advanced thing, which is kind of like an event handler. Error message get, there's lots and lots of functions that literally just return a pointer. And that's kind of messy. I'd like that to be a bit more structured and reusable. And when I put in the, actually this here, the state buffers, I was like, what I've basically done here is I've basically made a list of pointers, how big they are, and identifiers. And I'm like, that kind of duplicates all this work I've just done here. So I'd like to change that. I'd like to make it so that there is a much smaller, simpler API. Next one is, event handlers again. So at the moment, there's this advanced function, and this does everything. You call into this, and it advances gain state. It actually advances the audio system. It renders the display. It does everything. And that means that everything is tied to everything else. You cannot have a render frame rate higher than your gameplay frame rate, just at full stop. And I'd like to fix that. So I'd actually split the video rendering out into its own thing and maybe like pass down kind of like a progress for the current tech or something like that. I think I'd still synchronize audio in the gameplay, just because if you're going to do any rhythm sections, that becomes important. Another thing I'd like to change is the way safe areas are done. This is way too complicated, just way too complicated. And also it doesn't allow for good feedback between the hosting runtime and the WebAssembly module. Another thought I'd had was the audio buffer. At the moment, this is just stereo. It'd be neat if instead like you could call into this and go render it from that direction, that direction, that direction. And that would mean that you can do things like VR. It means you can do things like, well, we start towards any video edits for that. You surround, you can do games with no audio, you can do all sorts of things. And it also means then that you wouldn't be calculating audio when you're just advancing gameplay. Gamepad support would be a good one. At the moment, there is in here, actually it's just in the advanced things, it just passes through a bunch of like cursor data, and then that gets passed down here, there, everywhere. Kind of annoying. I'm just going to put it in a buffer and then also augment it with gamepad input. I'm going to try and keep that simplified so it's almost kind of like a Joy-Con, because for the kind of games that would be made with this, a Joy-Con should always be enough inputs. If it's not, we can always extend it later on. Okay, so with regards to like internal engine features, there's a lot I'd like to change in here as well. One of them is there's one global camera that covers the entire screen. That's not very good design. It should instead be a component, so you can attach it to things in the scene, and you can have multiple of them. You know, set viewport areas to split screen, that kind of thing. That'd be nice. Audio. There is no audio in this game to save time, but the it was never connected to the entity component system. It's kind of its own thing. Be nice to get that done. I was going to say, because I got, where is it? Audio, songs. At the moment, there's one global song playing at a time. And I was thinking about this. Does it make sense to actually attach these two entities so that I can, say, have multiple songs playing at once, crossfade between them? That'd be nice. I'd like to reduce the complexity of the type system. At the minute, when you create an entity, let's see if we can find it, or a component. There's like a separate type for component IDs, despite the fact they are indices. And, you know, there's like constants for like, you know, none, stuff like that. And I'm like, it's an index under the hood. It's always going to be an index. Let's just expose it like it is. There's a list component in here, which does kind of work pretty well, but it's a bit messy. This is not well designed. And one of the biggest problems it has is, I kind of overthought, well, over and underthought text rendering. Because at the moment, when you do font rendering in this engine, it gets stored in a buffer that gets cleared very often. I should really be able to sort of like calculate the positions of text and then just sort of stamp it onto the screen without having to render it to a temporary buffer. So that's going to be a change I'd like to make. Yeah. So that's all the thoughts on where I'd like to take it. Damn, that only took like 10 minutes. So the next thing is to go into the engine itself, and just ignore all this project names up there. So yeah, I've been on and off just taking bits of that engine and putting them into here. Now, unfortunately, I have just realized this streaming setup is not working very well multiple Visual Studio Code windows. But in good news, we've kind of got everything we need in here. So what's different with this? Well, one of the first things is, do I have everything cursed open in? Yes, I do. Let's open a new Firefox window. There we go. Right. So yeah, I've started building out all the functionality that was engine specific, not game specific, into a separate repo, giving it a bit of a clean up and a polish as I do that, and starting to write some documentation for it. This is still very sparse and things like that, but it is starting to kind of like come together. So that documentation I was talking about the protocol, about switching into buffers. Here it is. You know, there's like spec in here for like gamepads, that kind of thing. I had started some work on the WebAssembly module. There's a lot of files that exist, but they don't currently contain here. They're all just basically blank for the moment. But it's kind of figuring out what I want to be in there. And these are almost all going to be one-to-one with the equivalents from the previous engine. It's just that I'm going to clean up any to-dos, things like that, naming conventions, stuff like that, that kind of drifted over time. The big thing I was kind of going to work on first, though, was this sort of buffer structure. So this is, if I come back up to the protocol here, here it is. So yeah, for the most part, the entire engine is going to hang off these four functions, and then also these event handlers down here. So I need to implement these. So let's just switch back over to the game prototype and see if we can find those buffers. There they are. Yeah, that's what we want. Oh, we're also going to want this. I'm going to grab that into my temporary buffer. And will anything that gets exported want to be in here? Now, one of the things I'm actually looking to do, maybe a bit controversial, is because I found that variable names in the previous engine were getting kind of long, and I'm looking to try and fix that. So I am going for much shorter. Part of the reason I was doing all that kind of like prefixing and stuff like that was that usually when you're building a code base, you know, it kind of coexists with other people's code. So if you'll say building a game engine, there's a chance it'll bring in, say, as an example, OpenGL, and OpenGL has its own context, idea of what kind of like a number is, what a Boolean is. And so they're all prefixed, and you prefix your own so it doesn't conflict with anyone else's. I reached a point in which like, this is a self-contained module. It doesn't have any libraries in it at all. That's kind of the entire point. So there's no point in prefixing things. It means I can just write like, rather than going like, IE wasm F32, I can just write F32, which is way easier to read. It means that less of the text should be getting kind of murky. So, oh yeah, another design change I was looking at making was returning error numbers rather than strings. I don't remember why I came to that decision, but I did. So let's just define this. We're not going to document this. There's no reason to document this. And yeah, just put a comment on this slip. The exports the following declaration from the WebAssembly module. Let's go back to our previous project. And let's go to our, I think I called it state in this. Yeah, I did. I am going to steal all of that out. And I'm going to put it in here. And we don't need a header file for like any of this because it's not used anywhere but here. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a game directory here, and oh, it's gone all the way down the bottom. And I'm basically going to import this kind of from the game as well. So you've got like a bit of a separation from things that are engine and game specific. Now I think I've already documented. Let's bring it around here. I think I've already documented somewhere in here. Yeah, there it is. So do I want this to be... I do want this to be reusable. Okay, think about this a bit. Yeah, I basically want to be able to put stuff into this list from here. So it might be that this actually defines a macro and then this kind of like puts it into this list. Let's rename that to item. Or you could not, that works too. Okay, so let's refer back to our documentation. What did we call this? We called it the buffer count. Then we've got buffer pointers. I called everything something different. That probably wasn't very smart. And then we've got buffer sizes and buffer identifiers. Now, do I want, say, a type in here for a buffer identifier? Probably not. I'm probably fine with a... look how much shorter that is, man. How much easier it's going to be how much easier it's going to be to read code written this way. Yeah, there's a bit more organization now because I have a bit more of an idea of how exactly this is going to, well, be organized. So I've got like this math directory, which are things like matrix and stuff belong, rather than putting it in video for some reason. Never quite made sense. Got like scenes with components underneath it. That works much more nicely. Way easier to navigate. So we're going to include our export header. Yep, that's good. And then we're going to have buffer list. And what do we have here? Current script. That's going to come later. We haven't got scripts in here yet. All the stuff about angels and stuff, we can get rid of that. It's not specific to this engine, specific to the game. So we have the persistence. Yeah, that's right. That flag needs to go in there, doesn't it? Here they are. Number of ticks per second. So I need to think about this. I have some elements here that need to come from the games because these are going to be game specific. I have also got this limits file, which might also want to come from the game. Let's have like a configuration. Is configuration a good term for it, or maybe like metadata? So I've got the definition of metadata. Data about data, maybe not. Project settings, I guess I'll call it. And I know I've got a like, reference to that somewhere. Yeah, let's get rid of that. That's not necessary. And so we've got a buffer list. What we're going to call this? Let's go for these in order, I suppose. And then we're going to have the number of ticks per second. Okay. I guess I could have some helpers in here as well. So like, so if you say just giving it a pointer to something, it automatically kind of calculates the size. That's probably quite useful. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just assume that's going to be the case. This index is going to be an issue if we have this defined in two separate files. I need to think about that. See if I can get rid of that. Audio samples per tick. Audio output buffer. We'll define all these later, it's just that we'll have a list to work through. Video buffer rows. Video buffer columns. Video buffer safe area rows. Columns. Let's see if I can make these a bit shorter actually. Like for example, we can probably shorten that to safe area and then just this to video rows and columns. Rows and columns will be a bit frequently used like in images and stuff that we don't want to overload it, but video rows and columns should be fine. Pointer state. Pointer rows, pointer columns. Actually, column, row. That's one of the naming things I want to sort out. So I kept pluralizing things that shouldn't be. We're going to have like an error handling here. I think it's in here. Here. Tick progress. So that's basically our thing where we're telling the video callback exactly how far for the current tick it is. There should be a maximum video rows and columns, and there should be video rows and video columns. And this is for our positional audio thing, so we're saying exactly where the listener is and which way it's facing. And we have controller states. And we have controller. Y-axis and X-axis. Oh wait, that's not the error. That is persist. That's not error. That's basically the flag saying whether or not it should be able to save the game state. Okay. Whoa! Thank you, Visual Studio Code. That's not confusing at all. Okay. So we should be able just to increment these as we go, which is going to get very confusing given Visual Studio Code just made a right mess. Okay, that should do. So we're going to remove this size argument and we're going to instead make it just use the size of whatever it's pointing to. Here, I want to see if I can get rid of this index. That's not great. Moving on. And these are going to be signed, all going to be signed. That's another thing I'm changing up is I'm getting rid of basically all unsigned integers in the entire thing. They're really confusing. They're really hard to work with. Actually, why am I buffering to initialize this at all? I can just do this in here. No, I do need to because I don't know the quantity at this point. Okay. I've just had an idea. I can get rid of the indexes. I can get rid of them. I can turn it into a loop. Let's get rid of that index from there. You do not belong. Be gone. So we only need to actually define one of these by size, and then we can just do this with the others. We can use the calculation based on this. Should let us see that. Yeah, that'll do. Happy with that. Oh yeah, that one. That one we can't specify the size of just yet. Okay, all right. Hang on, I've got this the wrong way around, haven't I? What am I doing? Is that right? That's right. Okay, so next up we need to iterate over all the items in this kind of like a macro kind of dumps out and assign pointers. So let's actually store this in a variable, I think. No, we can't. We can't. That's fine then. Yeah, I've kept the index type. It's just too useful. It's used too often. Okay, I should be able to use now. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. What we should be able to do with this is we should be able to have it increment. Because we're going to have this this buffer number. We should be able to increment that from inside the macro. And it should work. It should do. So I'm going to find out. Get rid of that. Don't need that anymore. So what I mean when I say about cleanup, just coming back around to like a fresh pair of eyes and go, oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. This could be simpler. That could be simpler. Oh, I just realized I named them both buffer. Rather than calling it buffer, let's call it data. You can do a post increment, and then we're going to point it to data. There we go. That should do what we want. Internally, that should like expanded this list out and made a big bunch of assignments. I mean, who knows what it actually did until we try running it, right? So now we can do the same with sizes. I might be able to move this in here actually, given It'll make the most sense to put it there because it's right next to the place where it's used. That'll make it nice and easy to read. What is this talking about? What does it mean? Oh, I haven't switched over to my new macro. Okay, there we go. Next, I want to get the identifiers out. It should be dead easy. Okay, and with that, we should now be good to basically put in that thing where the game state ones can go in. Yeah, one of the things I've actually done is I've taken the ranges and I've gone like, oh, this range is state, this range is IO, and I've got some down here for kind of like required IO, so that if say your game needs something or it's actually unplayable, you can say it. You can say like you can say to the hosting runtime, if you don't have this, don't even try running. Just throw an error. And vice versa, you can actually have the runtime go, well, I need this to be able to play games, maybe it's a video output or something. Okay. That should be okay. What's this on about? It's expected a type specifier. You've got one, haven't you? I should make it and see what happens. So yeah, the idea is that after, like this last few sessions, because we're up to day 56 of 60, I won't be streaming the dev of this anymore during the week, just during sort of the weekends. And hopefully I'll be able to do more kind of 3D stuff like assets and textures and stuff, because the kind of boring program side of it will have been done off stream during the week, during the weekday evenings, hopefully. What is this saying? Oh yeah, so the other thing I've done is I've actually split it into production and development versions. So hopefully that means that sorry. Hopefully that means that we can have faster builds, but then also have a nice quick to run version at the end. Right, so we don't have null here. I want to see if I can avoid bringing in null. Where would I put it if I was going to put a constant for null? Where would I put it? Because it's pretty easy to make yourself, right? I mean, like, I'll temporarily bring it in here. I'm pretty sure it's just 0, right? Wait, where does it get its null from? Yeah, it's just a 0. Which actually isn't technically correct for WebAssembly, because 0 is actually a valid address in WebAssembly, but it's besides the point, isn't it? Where would I put that? I don't really know where to put that. Okay, I'm going to do this. Okay, what else do we have in here? What else is okay, this is where it's saying like it can't find things, that's fine. Oh, I should rename these two. What? Okay, so next up we need to start defining some of these. So I'm going to add some more stuff to the game sort of project settings. So we're going to have a video file here. Let's call it video settings, I think. And this is where we're going to start bringing these into here. So I'm going to have to make sort of temporary variables for these, but that's fine. And I'm just going to copy these parameters over from the previous version of the engine so we know they work. The maximum number of rows displayable in the video buffer, the maximum width of the video buffer in pixel columns. Yeah, that's a better name. Yeah, let's go for that. Then we're going to have safe area rows and columns. Okay, now we need to import that from the game. And then we should be able to make some variables for all of this. So let's pull all of this up here. We're going to need a separate copy of them anyway. Oh my, that's going a bit strange, isn't it? Okay, the number of game state advances per second. It's easy enough. I might also look at some better code formatting stuff because I don't really like this, what it's doing to my code. It also doesn't enforce a lot of things I would kind of expect formatting to enforce. So audio settings too. So this is like making it so you can customize all this stuff, and but it's quite separate from the engine. Okay, let's do the math here. Let's do the math. So it's going to be like 44,100 divided by 60. It's going to be 735. Easy. Do I actually have, wait, do I actually have an export for that? Yeah, I do. Oh, it's literally the second one on the list. And I'm going to shorten that to samples per tick. There we go. Okay, let's start turning these into real defines. Oh no, that's gone very wrong. These are all starting to pull in there, that's good. These pointer states are going to come from another file. We're going to have a separate file for those. Controller states and axes are going to come from somewhere else, as is the error and the persistence flag. Probably the tick progress too. And those two are going to come from somewhere else as well. As are those. Just the constants we're buffering with right now. The audio output buffer is going to come from somewhere else. And that's just that. Okay, that's looking good. Next up, we want to start thinking about how things like our input are going to be defined. I am also just going to add those project settings to the documentation. So I think it was in Engine API, there we go. Ah, but they're not part of the Engine API, are they? They're not. Let's put a to-do comment in here, talking about changing the resolution stuff. Yeah, there we go. All right, so what do we need next? We next up, well, yeah, I'm going to rename this to index.c, and I'm going to make it so there's a big folder full of buffers because we're going to need a lot of them. No, wait, no, I'm not going to do that. It makes no sense because, I mean, like, there'll be nothing in here but buffers. Or maybe I will. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, well, I'll do it. I'll move it all into there. Watch all the compile errors now happen. Let's define the video buffers in here. So at the moment in the previous engine, I have kind of like a shared image type that is used across the board, whether it's kind of like something you're rendering to or something you're kind of like oh, gone blank. Oh! So like an image you've imported or an image you're kind of rendering to. I'm going to separate them back out. I'm not sure that actually ever made sense. I'm not quite sure it ever quite made sense. It felt like it made sense, but I don't think it quite did. Because it meant that you had the kind of like some images being mutable, some being immutable with the same type, which is possible, but it's kind of strange. And you also had... What did you have? Oh, it's gone. Some of them having depth buffers and some of them not. Very strange. So let's just have a video file here. And let's copy over a boilerplate. The height of the current video of the video buffer currently being rendered in pixel rows. There we go, that'll do. And then I have already defined a color type. I did do a bit of redesign on this where it's actually a byte array, just because I found myself constantly shifting things in and out of the integer. Might go back on that yet, not sure. We'll have to see, It'd be really nice if actually floating point, but that'd be a huge waste of memory bandwidth. And then we're going to have our colors come in. And again, it's just called color now. No like really long type names, much nicer. Let's just pull up the documentation. What do they call this? I called it video output. Okay, there we go. That'll do. And then we're just going to have this exact same thing pretty much, but in here. Oh yeah, I should probably bring my limits. And project settings, video, and this should be sized to match the video settings, so make sure that it always fits. We can now get rid of all these comments because this is the implementation. We've defined the we've defined the other end of it. And now I just need to make sure it's in the engine API exports. Here we are. Oh yeah, these have now changed. So these need to be shifted across to buffers. I just had a thought. Would it make more sense to actually put this video stuff alongside the video event handler, given it's all related and you'd never use it in any other situation? Not sure. We'll have to think about that one. So yeah, I have to. I'm feeling much more kind of in the zone with this, just because it did kind of feel like a bit of a sort of like a losing game trying to build that game prototype. Given I've given myself far too much time constraints and not enough actual time to build it. This is proving a bit more fun. Let's add, this is all going to be float. Let's add out. Actually, maybe I'll start from the audio, from the header side and then copy over to the video side. Okay, so again, we've already got all of our descriptions here. So we have, this can actually just be a vector. Yeah, again, it's just called vector now, and those silly type names, much nicer. So we have, yeah, there we go. And then we're going to need the buffer itself, which should be pretty simple. It's going to be, we need to pull from the audio settings, but it should be as simple as, oh, actually, I wonder if I need to like store a start and end. I have to think about that. And then we've got a nice long description here, detailing everything that goes in here. Audio output buffer. No, audio. Oh, do I not have an audio output buffer? That's kind of embarrassing. Oops, let's fix that. So this is Protocol. No, wait, it's right there. It's right there. Okay, that's good. That's good. So, position list on X, Y, and Z axis in what space in meters? Would it be enough, do you think, to just have that once per sample? Probably. I don't see myself doing anything kind of advanced, like say the Doppler effect or anything like that. Let me just copy these into here. I should just copy all of that file into there. Get rid of the word external for all of these and get rid of all the comments. And that's our implementation of that done. And we can then import that into the buffers list. And it should fill some of these in. There you go, that's a bit happier. Now video buffer hasn't come through, why not? It's definitely there. And the compiler can find it. Well, the IDE can find it, so. Let's put the tick progress in video as well. Not quite sure if it quite belongs, but it's related. There we go. I've already written it much better than I could in my current state of mind. There we go. Just copy that over. Bring the right headers. And that's done. That should light up. I said that should light up. Okay, don't. Fine, whatever. Let's just reload this window just in case these aren't refreshing for whatever reason. Come on. Okay, next up we need to add the pointer buffers. This shouldn't take super long. It's kind of like for the cursor and things. Ah, hang on. I've got two of these. That's why it's not picking up on. I haven't renamed the header, so it was ignoring the file. Should flash up more of those. There we go, that's looking healthier. So next up we have pointer states. Let's do that next. Oh, these haven't matched up. Why not? We start from 24. And then 6, 7, 8. Oh, we've got a miscount. Uh-oh. My documentation's full of holes. Let's just fix that. So I do have a project, a really silly project I wanted to take with this engine. Something that'd be a bit smaller scope than what I did before. Something a little nuts. Something with a bit of IP theft in it. Probably going to keep the game prototype around to use as kind of like a proof of concept for the engine. Okay, we've got to be almost there now, right? No? Oh, it doesn't like that. Use of undeclared identifier or identifier. Ah. Yeah. That's right there. Well, we're nearly done for today. This has been more productive than recent days. Happy with that. Let's add some of our extra stuff here for kind of pointer state and stuff like that. And we'll probably call it a day there. Yes, we've got like the pointer state, X and Y coordinates. Nice and easy. Probably not going to bother making a type there for this, or maybe I will, I'm not quite sure yet. So yeah, maybe on there. Yeah, I'll take that around. Okay, that's good. And I need to alter this documentation to say it's the primary button. Okay, that's a pretty good start. So thanks very much for watching, and picking this up a few more nights now because we're only this is day 56 of 60, so we'll do a few more of just kind of like building this newer engine out, cleaning it up a bit, and hope you have a great evening. I'll see you another time.